but I got wise. You're the devil in disguise. Oh yes you are, the devil in disguise. Ooh.
Beware, beware, be skeptical. The smiles so plated gold. Deceit so natural, but a wolf in sheep's clothing is more than a warning. Blah, blah, black sheep, have you any soul? No, sir, by the way, what the hell are more?
Hello everyone, it's Randy again, and I felt like this next video should really be a short clarification video. I had not realized that when I posted the first couple of videos that many of you may not have actually read the short PDF document that Mike and Kim was reading from. And after all, this is a YouTube community which is all about videos, not about reading. So I'm going to go over some of those details now with this video. I'd like to mention though that to clarify things, first of all, I did sue WatchTower Society. Some thought that I was asking the question to get some feedback whether I should sue or not. No, my purpose of the one video was to help those that might be contemplating suing WatchTower Society to maybe give them some information that help them make that decision. But the main thing that I got, we'd actually settled. We reached a settlement agreement. And the main thing that I accomplished was what I was after, was to get the elders to leave me alone, to quit meddling in my business matters. As a matter of fact, at one of the meetings I went to, it was a settlement agreement meeting. I went there for that purpose, to reach a resolution, find some way to resolve it, to get them to leave things alone. You're going to hear that tape in its entirety. It was supposed to be with the circuit overseer and a couple of other elders, local elders. However, the other elders did not even show up. The circuit overseer was Henry Turner. And yes, Evie, he was the same circuit overseer that you had visit with you. We were not real impressed with him when he was visiting our hall, because it really bothered us that he was talking bad about those that he had just served. I mean, you know, behind their back, he's out there putting them down and telling all their problems. And we thought, what's he going to do when he leaves here? Is he going to be doing the same thing about us? So, you know, if he had, we have no way of knowing. Some of you might tell us, that'd be interesting. But back about Henry Turner's own words, when they didn't show up, when they stood us up, he told me, he said, you know, they're really afraid of you. And so that was right there a good feeling, to know that they'd went from belittling me and slandering me and telling people not to work for me. They went from that stage to actually afraid to even come, even with the circuit overseer by their side, backing them up at their back. That meant I was getting what I was wanting, what I was striving to do. But the second thing that I'd like to bring out and to clarify, some people may think I'm bitter toward those elders that was trying to extort me in that back elders room in West Texas, Odessa Central Congregation. And that's not the case. I'm not bitter toward them at all. As a matter of fact, because of their extortion attempts, I have much gratitude toward them. It made me started realizing that I needed to be more like the Bereans in my study of the scriptures, study of doctrine. I needed to actually, you know, realize that, hey, this wasn't right. I realized that. But then when I realized also how the WatchTower Society came at their defense, and they were so inadequate, incompetent at even translating or transcribing English to English, it made me realize, hey, I've trusted these people my entire life. I need to start being responsible for my own, carrying my own load. And that was something that was a bit benefit to me. But anyway, I have no hard feelings toward those. I'm very much appreciative that, because they helped me out. They helped me wake up to the fact and get chains off that I really did not realize I was in bondage, in chains. But many may be asking though, well, why is it though, it doesn't sound logical, why is it that elders would even interfere into your business? You know, that's what a lot of people ask me, and that's really a long story. I'm going to get into that. It involves a pedophile that came to West Texas from California congregation. The local West Texas elders was telling us he's in great standing. We needed to, bond with him and take him out in service. I would not allow him to get in my car. I didn't even know he was a pedophile at the time. But I was getting some conflicting reports. The elders, the presiding overseers out there, was telling me how he was involved with these little teenagers, how they didn't quite have concrete evidence, but they was, working on it, and then he'd skip off and run to some other congregation, and they couldn't quite catch him. That's the whole problem really today. Is like I talked to an elder the other day at a funeral I was at, and he was saying, "Yeah, we don't call the police first. We call the headquarters because we have to ascertain all the facts." And I told him, I said, "John, this is John Sneed." I said, "John, for every minute that you're out ascertaining facts, there's children that's at danger. Don't you realize that? I don't think you've got a DNA forensic lab kit in your trunk of your car, do you?" No, of course not. But anyway, I'll get into more of that story. It won't be one video. It'll have to be a series of videos because it's quite lengthy, and that's what led up to my litigation, is because these elders that was local in West Texas didn't like the idea I was trying to sidestep them in the efforts of looking out for my daughter. And I'm very thankful I did. I can't imagine what it would have been like if this pedophile had married my young daughter and then abused my grandchildren. That would have been horrible. So I'm very glad I escaped the bullet there. And so now I'm going to review the details of this brief PDF document. Mostly it's screenshots I'm going to put up on the screen and let you see, and you'll get more of an idea of what happened, why the litigation took place. And then at the end of this, these screenshots, at the end of these excerpts I'm putting in, I'm going to explain more at the conclusion, just briefly, why it is that I decided to make YouTube videos, why it is I decided to release these audio tapes.
Yes, I started out on the little document, PDF document, as actually a release to anyone. It says, "To all, I hereby give my permission for anyone wanting to use my copyright information below for an educational work, provided that the information is used legally and in its entirety. You have my permission to download, rename, and use the linked audio recording below, and this document provided that it is done legally and for an educational work. Any images used in this document were public domain and or is being used here under the Fair Use Act, Randy M. in USA." And I entitled it, "Why I as a Jehovah's Witness would think that Kingdom Hall attendance is dwindling." See, although my wife and I have been Jehovah's Witnesses for over 100 years combined, we don't always agree with WatchTower's doctrines and procedures. The disfellowshipping procedure is just one of those procedures that we don't agree with. We have never been disfellowshipped or even disciplined by the church. If my name or any of my family's names are mentioned publicly or privately by WatchTower or any of WatchTower's elders, I will pursue litigation again against all the WatchTower corporations and any elders that are involved. Because I consider it to be slander for someone to make a statement about me that implies I am no longer a witness for Jehovah and that I should be shunned. You can see there's a picture of my daughter. She's on the left-hand side of the screen, the far left. And my grandchildren, they're kind of scattered out, but there's 3 grandchildren there, maybe more, but that's the last I've heard of, is that I have 3. I've never met any of them. And then over to on the right-hand side, you'll see an elder that's actually in that 3-minute tape, and he's also a Jehovah's Witness businessman that's in the reviews. His father is sitting down on the front. That's actually James Simpson. The elder that was on the 3-minute tape is Steve Simpson, and he was at the time presiding overseer of West Texas congregation. The only 2 that, well, other than my daughter, the only 2 that have treated us so ill, so badly, are those 2 men on the outside at the top row. The rest of the family been very kind to us and just normal people. So I have no hard feelings toward their family. I have no hard feelings toward the elder Steve Simpson that did the extortion, because while I was terrorized really at the time, knowing that I could lose everybody that I had ever had friends growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. You're taught you only have Jehovah's Witness friends. So as a youngster, that's all I ever had. Relatives, because of not participating in holidays, we were isolated from all of our non-Jehovah's Witness relatives. So the only relatives that we had close to us was Jehovah's Witness relatives. Even the mindset I had that those that were not Jehovah's Witnesses could not be trusted, this was something that was not true, because there's good and bad people regardless of what their religious views are. And at the time, see, I was actually only hiring to work for my company, Jehovah's Witnesses. And so you can imagine how terrorized I was to be told that I was going to be in an instant have some false charges brought against me so that I would be shunned. But see, even though I was terrorizing and that was painful at the moment, I'm very thankful that it happened, and I owe much gratitude to the man on the right. His son, the man on the left, married to my daughter, I don't hold him any gratitude. He can never, ever restore what he has robbed from us. That is my grandchildren. But anyway, let me continue with back. I'm getting off rambling here. Let me get back on this brief document. If any future litigation occurs, I will not consider any settlement agreement as I did the last time. No, my attorney was amazed that in my settlement agreement with WatchTower, there were no requirements to restrict me from talking about the details and facts of my court claims. Well, that's why I can now tell everyone about my claims that I believe is one of the reasons that the Kingdom Hall attendance is dwindling. Of course, the things in the news, such as the pedophile problems inside the Jehovah's Witness organization, WatchTower, that may be one reason for many to stop attending the Kingdom Halls. I know quite a few actually have, but I believe perhaps the chief reason for the dwindling attendance is the abuse by those in power inside the organization. See, WatchTower has finally admitted to those abuses at a recent convention, but directing Jehovah's Witnesses to keep on attending despite these abuses. Well, I have hours and hours of recordings that, in my opinion, reflects much of the abuse and injustice. However, to be brief at this moment, I'm only sharing a 3-minute audio recording that was legally recorded in an elder's room inside of a Kingdom Hall in Odessa, Texas, USA, with myself, my oldest daughter, and 2 elders. The elder that was the most abusive was at the time the presiding overseer in the Odessa Central Congregation. Although I had not filed suit yet, I had made a claim to WatchTower from a monetary loss that was due to their agents interfering into my commercial business, which was my livelihood. These agents were telling Jehovah's Witnesses that were working for me that I had fired them, which I had not. These agents were also telling Jehovah's Witnesses not to work for me. Therefore, because this was over money, and I was terrorized by being told that I would have witnesses come forth against me that could result in me being shunned unless I dropped my charges against these agents, I consider that to be extortion and attempted blackmail. And then I give the link to that probably no doubt all of you have heard, that up to now the WatchTower attorneys have heard it. So not only was I abused by this terrorizing threat, but I was spoken to very abusively, even being called a nasty name by this presiding overseer on the same Sunday that the WatchTower lesson was on shepherding the flock with kindness. You can look that up yourself. It was May 1st, 2006 WatchTower Study Edition. Well, I was shocked at how abusive this one particular elder was, because up to my knowledge, I didn't know him of interfering into my livelihood before this. And I've often wondered if it might be because his adult Jehovah's Witness son of legal age had had sex relations with my minor, underage middle daughter, long before marrying her, which resulted in his son temporarily losing some privileges, although to my knowledge no announcement was ever made regarding that. And I'm just going to throw something in here. It was not on that PDF document, but I later even learned that one of the times that this took place, this sex relations that this adult had, was in a PetSmart in Midland, Texas, USA. Whereas in the hallway, he even had another Jehovah's Witness stand lookout for him so he wouldn't get caught. But anyway, that wasn't in this document. I just thought of that, thought I'd throw that in. And then I go on, you'll see on the screen here a screenshot of some reviews that's made about this elder's business. It's by customers of this elder. It says, I don't believe that this, I go on and say, I don't believe that this elder's demeanor, as I saw inside that elder's room, is only that way towards the rank and file inside the congregation, because it's easy to read the many negative reviews on the internet of how he treats his customers of his business. Below is just one customer review. And this was a Google user. The screenshot says, this user says, I cannot comment on the plumbing work this company does because they would never show up or return a phone call to set up a time to inspect my plumbing issues. I called this company's secretary 5 times wondering why I never received a call from a technician to confirm an appointment. And I spoke directly to the company's owner twice, who told me technicians would come by my house at a given time, in which they never did, and also never called to let me know they were not coming. I also had at least 2 phone calls into the boss around there, that is in parenthesis Steve, who never returned the call. I find it extremely rude, and not to mention extremely ignorant, not to follow up on a simple phone call to inform prospective customers of when or why they're not showing up. Extremely poor customer service on this company. And then I posted a link to that review for those that might want to read it and maybe themselves write a review. I'm going to write a review myself. I just haven't had time. I'm going to basically explain that I can't say whether or not to use them like some of these others say, but I'm going to say if you do use them, please watch your children, watch your women, and watch your children. But here's what another customer, Amanda James, had to say in the way of a review. Quote, and I'm quoting, quote, if you ever want to be screwed over by a plumbing company, this is the place to go. Left my family without water last night, claiming there was nothing they could do to help us. Busted up extra holes in my cement slab because they followed the irrigation line instead of the main line that was already exposed. Yet my amazing husband, a certified nun plumber, was able to come home after work and repair the line so that we could have water and a working water line. There's a lot I can deal with, but their rude customer service was the last straw. When you pay a service company to help you, they should do as such. It makes things worse so they can take advantage. That's the end of quote. She also stated in another review, a different review, this same Amanda, plumbers had to leave us without water overnight. I have 2 small children and would try to be back out the next day. Or they would try to be back out the next day, but by no means do they act as a service company should. I was in the business of paying them to assist me, yet there was nothing they could do for me besides waste my time, dig extra holes in my cement slab, and leave my family without water. Now you'll see the screenshot of a third customer of this Jehovah's Witness elder, Steve Simpson, and what this Sarah P. had to say. Okay, and it's on the trenchless replacement specialist there in Odessa. Sarah P. says, they fixed the pinhole leak in our hot water line, but in the process left a mess. Destroyed the heater's drip pan and left the drain to the exterior disconnected. Cut the inlet lines to the heater unnecessarily since they unscrew and are flexible enough to lift and turn out of the way to remove the heater. Then send out another group of fellows to right the damage. They replace the pan with a wider, shallower one and also do not connect the drain off properly. It's still unlevel, but hey, it's on the box entirely again. Though it does lean a bit and rock back and forth if touched. Well, the hot water inlet is still too long after all the splicing, and so it bows like a rainbow above it. They also left the busted up cement under it, and this time no one bled the lines before they left. So when we finally went to use our shower tonight, we found there's no hot water. Our heater was working when they got there, but now it's not. Plugged in, no blown breaker, everything is where it should be. But once again they came and left, and now we have a new problem. I'm afraid to have them fix what they do, let alone what you need done before they arrive. Apparently they plugged it in before filling the tank and they burned out our elements. When is $800 worth this kind of hassle? Subpar workmanship and a bunch of guys whose attitude about putting something back the way they found it was full of more excuses than my 3-year-old. I was told the drip pan was useless anyway. Well, newsflash, my previous real-life experience proved otherwise months prior. Just don't bother with them if you possibly can help it. God be with you if you can't. And then I shared the link to Sarah's review. These reviews of how this Odessa, Texas Jehovah's Witness elder treats his customers shouldn't really surprise me, friends, because in addition to the abusive way he treated me, one time his son laughingly told me that when his dad doesn't want to do a job, he just simply tells his customer that he'll bring him a quote, but then he'll never bring it. He laughed when saying after a while that customer just gives up. Well, this was not the way that I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, because I was taught from the Bible to let your yes mean yes. I was so hoping that when my daughter married into that particular Jehovah's Witness family, she would not pick up that kind of dishonesty. I was hoping and praying that I had instilled in her honesty and integrity. So you can see how bitterly disappointed I was to read her writing a positive review on her husband's company website as if she was just another happy, satisfied customer. My Jehovah's Witness stated this in her online review. Here's a screenshot of that. It says there her name, Alicia Simpson, reviewed trenchless replacement specialists on June 24th. She says, they replaced my water lines. The work was done very fast. We had no water in the middle of summer with 3 kids, and they came over and replaced all the water lines without a lot of damage to my house. We also used them for a sewer problem we had. Very good work done for both jobs. Thank you, TRS. Oh, see, to a lot of people, that would appear as a non-biased customer giving a review. As a matter of fact, I've heard where Amazon now is cracking down on those fake reviews. It would be great if we could get some of these other places cracked down as well. But anyway, I give a link to where she made that review if those want to click on it and look at it. And I also, you'll see another screenshot coming up right now. And I wanted to let everyone know that my Jehovah's Witness daughter's deceptiveness by pretending to be an unbiased customer not affiliated with the company she reviewed, it's not just unique with her. It's happening all over the world. Here's another Jehovah's Witness that does the same without, he's giving a review of their family's business online, and that's actually the grandson of Joe and Barbara Anderson. His name was Luke, and here's a screenshot of his review where he says, amazing, great service, just awesome. And he gives them, of course, the 5-star rating. And I wanted just to pause for a minute and say how it's such a great injustice for WatchTower to force Joe and Barbara Anderson's son, Lance, and also their grandchildren to shun them, because all Barbara Anderson was trying to do was to protect all of our children when she went on Dateline TV. Not just our children, but just children even that's not Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's it's also a great injustice to her son, her grandchildren, and every Jehovah's Witness that's now not able to get to know her and her husband, because they're really wonderful, loving, brilliant, and fun people. Well, I'm embarrassed really to say that when this adult Jehovah's Witness man had sex relations with my underage daughter, I didn't speak up publicly. At the time, I was really humiliated for myself and for my family. But now, I've come to realize that many victims feel that way. Victims shouldn't have to feel that way because it's not really their fault. I remember this man stating that his father, the presiding overseer, told him what to say and how to say it, and how it would probably be just private counsel and maybe losing some of his privileges temporarily. Well, true, his father was the presiding overseer at the time, and he called me up and he told me he was going to recuse himself because of being one of the investigators and being off that case, because he wouldn't want it to look like nepotism. But guess what he did? Instead, guess who he sent out? He sent out two men that he certainly had strong affiliations with. One was his own cousin, who was also an employee of his. And the other was a friend that you would always see him socially with, at the bowling alley and different places. But that friend that he was always with, his son was actually an employee of this elder Steve Simpson as well at the time. And I really didn't want to leave anyone out. The older man in that first photograph, if you remember looking at it, that was his Odessa City overseer. And he's a father to the elder that's in that 3-minute tape, and the grandfather to the Jehovah's Witness man that had the sex relations with my daughter, underage daughter, that's up there standing next to my daughter now. So when I was being slandered and extorted, blackmailed, and treated harshly by these elders, I still thought that our headquarters would want to know and would want to make things right. I was wrong. They ignored my pleas until I brought litigation, at which time I was able to see firsthand the lies from the ones at the top. The WatchTower attorney even told me that despite the wrong done to me, they would never remove these elders because they were needed so much. I'm going to pause right there to let you folks know I've got a tape recording with him saying that. I think you'll be interested to hear that. And that's going to be posted later as well. Well, these lies were distraught enough for me to see, but then I saw the errors in the transcripts of my tapes. There were entire sentences that I spoke yet were transcribed by WatchTower to be that of Circuit Overseer Richard Botts. Words were added and words were omitted that changed the meaning of our conversation completely. And I remember thinking to myself, my God, I've been trusting these people for years to translate the Bible from Greek and Hebrew into English. And here yet they can't even transcribe from English to English. Well, while undergoing all these injustices, I'm now happy that they occurred. Had it not been for them, I might not have started looking into the Bible and find the many other mistranslations that are blatantly there for anyone with an open mind to see. I very much love and miss my daughter that now won't have anything to do with us or let us see our only grandchildren. We've never seen any of the three that I've heard about. We went there when the first two, that is the twins in the picture here, were born premature and in intensive care, but their father didn't permit us to see them and we were told to leave the hospital. This was all because we wouldn't shake hands with their father's presiding overseer dad that was there also. I pleaded with their father to please let us see them. That was our purpose being there, and we wasn't there for contention or for an altercation. We left those, and he told us to leave, so we left there not knowing if those babies was going to live to die. We never got to see them. We've reached out to our daughter many, many times, but with no success. She won't even return a telephone call to her mom that she promised she would. I would think that childbirth pains that my wife had for this daughter of ours would at least warrant her keeping a promise of returning a phone call. Abuses and injustice are why I think attendance is so low. My daughter's husband once told us that he suspected ones that perceived some sort of injustice had actually cut his brake lines and loosened the trailer hitch to his dad's trailer so that it would come loose and cause an accident. And then here my daughter recently told her great aunt that she was puzzled why the seats are so empty in her Kingdom Hall. Well, it's not puzzling to me. Well, we later learned that my twin grandchildren pulled through, and now we even have a third grandchild. However, we've never seen any of them. I do not want to be around the dad of these children because of him always wanting to provoke an altercation. That's why the last time I spoke to him over the telephone, I begged him to please let us see them with someone that someone that could remain peaceful and someone he could trust, like maybe perhaps his mom and maybe our daughter. But he blatantly refused. And my daughter's Facebook account has blocked us. Thankfully, she's left it open to the public so that our friends could share with us these photos of our 3 beautiful grandchildren. I hope that we can see them before it's too late. So that's the end of that. I just, in brief conclusion, I'd like to again explain my purpose in making these videos is to help others, those that may be under oppression right now, to help them get out from under that oppression. Those that are not under oppression, maybe they are not Jehovah's Witnesses, they never have been Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe to help them to not ever have to experience the pain that goes along at times with being a Jehovah's Witness. But I guess the most important purpose is I want to get this information out there so that someday, that maybe my grandchildren and maybe my daughter can actually see the facts and know. Hopefully it'll be before it's too late while we're still walking on the earth. But anyway, that's it, and until next time, goodbye.